field. I'm also an alcoholic, and I've also survived suicide attempts. Right now in the world of firefighting and emergency medicine, firefighters, medics, police officers are killing themselves in record numbers by committing suicide. And it's just kind of a dirty secret of the profession. There's a lot of alcoholism, there's a lot of drug abuse with firefighters and emergency workers. And we use it as a method to take care of the stresses that we have on a daily basis. The average person just can't imagine the crap that we see out there in the world. We're like societal garbage collectors, you know. We take care of everybody, but we also see the worst of the worst out there in the world. And you do that day in and day out. And what happens is it just starts building up on you. And nobody else can really relate to what we're doing, so you can't really go home and talk to your wife or your husband or your family about what you're experiencing on a daily basis. And if you talk about it at work, it's acceptable within some standards. You know, if you're going through a divorce or bankruptcy, or you're going through some terrible shit in the world, and you've got a stressful job on top of it, it really starts knocking you down. So if you go to work and you talk to another firefighter and you say, hey, look, man, you know, I'm really struggling out there. I'm drinking too much. I'm having suicidal thoughts, or something along those lines, another firefighter, they'll pat you on the back. They say, oh, man, you know, I feel for you. I really feel bad for you. And then when they walk away and they talk to other firefighters, they say, hey, this guy's unreliable. He's not trustworthy. You know, he's weak. He's lost it. I don't want to work with the guy. I don't trust him. You know, you go into a fire, is the guy going to do his job? Is he going to be able to save you? Is he going to be able to save the public? Is he going to be able to save himself? And those are the questions that are caused in this. So it's better to swallow that shit, not say a word, you know, as we like to say, you know, man up or put on your big boy pants or whatever the hell you want to call it. But what happens is you keep swallowing that shit. And then when you get off of work and your mind is troubled by it and you're bothered by it, at least in my case, the best thing for me to do was drink that away. And I drank a lot. And I got drunk, and finally I was overloaded with this job and with the things that we saw and we did. Didn't really realize I was an alcoholic at the time. And then I tried to kill myself. And if it wasn't for an accident that caused me to be discovered, it would have been successful. I would have been dead if I hadn't have been found. And at that point in my life, I was okay with that. I was ready to die, and I was ready to not be a burden on everybody around me. People say suicide, you know, is a very selfish act, and it is, and mine was as well. But what happens at that time, at least for me, in that point in time, I felt like I was such a burden on everybody around me. My wife, my children, my family, my friends. I was a downer. I was depressed. I was drinking too much. Personality changed when I drank. I was more foul-mouthed and aggressive when I drank. And I just got to a point where I thought the world would be better off without me, that everybody's life would improve if Tim just simply went away. And that was the motivation behind that. That was back in 1994, 20 years ago. And that was the first time that it led to treatment and sobriety. But it was a public event. You can't be a part of that system and try to commit suicide drunkenly and do it like an average drunken suicidal person would do. 911 was called, ambulance came, fire department came. I was transported to the hospital. The physician advisor that I worked for was on duty. I knew all the nurses, I knew all the medics, I knew all the firefighters. And immediately everybody else knew that I was drunk and had tried to kill myself. There was no keeping it secret. It was a very public event when I tried to kill myself. And so that led to me going into treatment. It also put me under a 1-year last chance work contract where if I drank, if I didn't comply with any of the conditions that were put on me, I could be terminated. I stayed sober for 7 years after that happened and had pretty good sobriety and had a nice life going. Then a major trauma happened. My ex-wife now filed for divorce, and the day that I was told that she was filing for divorce, I went and got drunk that night. And then that started a cycle of relapses and sobriety and relapses and sobriety and another attempted suicide. And this stuff went on to the point that I got busted again for drinking and was put under my second last chance contract, and wound up on the 364th day of that work contract. I got drunk the night before. I went to work. I smelled of booze and was detected by a chief officer. I was drug tested. The UA came back that I was a .002, but all departments now have a zero tolerance policy. So even though I wasn't legally drunk, even though I wasn't legally under the influence, I was hungover and I tested positive for having alcohol in my system. My department generously allowed me to retire as if nothing had happened. I had enough time on the job. I was old enough I could retire and quietly disappear. But it was known by everybody on the fire department exactly what happened. So now over the years, I've used AA, I've been to treatment, I've been to rehab centers, I've done 27-day programs, I've done a few days, I've done a year-long course in trying to maintain my sobriety. Right now, my goal is that I work with other firefighters that are alcoholic, that come to AA. I'm an AA sponsor. I teach other alcoholics how to use the tools of Alcoholics Anonymous and how to achieve sobriety, hopefully, and maintain sobriety. So my hope with these videos is giving people an understanding that this is a common occurrence with a lot of firefighters and a lot of emergency workers. We get into alcohol. You get an injury and you're given painkillers. Next thing you know, you're addicted to the painkillers as well. And they do. They kill the emotional pain. The alcohol kills emotional pain. But you can get to the point of suicide, much like I did. So before you get caught, before you get a DUI, before you get a domestic violence charge brought against you, it's best to go to your employee assistance program. If you think you got a problem drinking or a problem with pain meds or something along those lines, if you think you got a problem, you do have a problem. If it changes your personality, if you become somebody else when you're drinking or when you're using, you have a problem. And the best thing to do is to go and admit this privately to your employee assistance program. EAP will keep it confidential, and hopefully you can get sober and get through treatment and never have to reveal that to your employer. Because if you get caught, all the language in last chance contracts say that your punishment is up to and including termination, and you become a liability. If it's public, if the news headline says drunk firefighter crashes and kills 2 people in their car, you're gone. You're a liability. So it's better to admit it, to come forward and get help immediately. So I'm going to continue doing these videos, and this is the first in a series, I hope, of many. So watch, spread the word, and come back for more. Thanks.